Well, these are the better bottles that came out of the first spooky hole, with the exception of this guy. He came out of a different hole, but I'll get to that one. Um, what was interesting was that the excavator had punched through the cement floor of this old building they were tearing down, and right where one would hope to find a privy, there was one. Um, I wasn't real familiar with old buildings having privies in their basements, but occasionally that happened, and fortunately it happened on this occasion. The buildings that were there, the brick commercial buildings were built at least by 1869 because they were on the bird's eye view map of Hannibal. And talking about getting permissions, it's always a good thing to make friends with the demolition guys. you know, take them a case of beer or something, and introduce yourself. Unlocks a lot of doors there in that regard. But anyway, so I got permission to dig on this lot when they weren't running the excavator, and so I'd show up daily since it was only a few blocks from my house. Um, One of the cool bottles I'd never dug up before, and they're fairly common, but is this W.H. Hooker's for lung diseases, Acker's, what is it, Acker's English Remedy. What I always liked was sole agents, North and South America. Boy, I'd hate to be the sole agent for that. Run your legs off. All the rest of the bottles, except for this one, all the rest of these I had professionally tumbled because they were just so cruddy. Especially this guy. This one had like a lobster-looking stain right on the guy's face. But it's one of those cool Good Samaritan from Tuscola, Illinois bottles. The later ones were from St. Joe, Missouri. They moved, but yeah, the what the heck is Nervine? Um, Really a cool face bottle. See the Good Samaritan's face in there with the trademark. I don't have a lot of bottles that have an embossed face on them. That one's pretty cool. Then again, what was an oddball for me, having been a Western digger, I don't recall ever digging a Weiss beer out west. I mean, you just don't see them. And I just think they're the coolest bottle in the world. I mean, these are way cool. I've dug a small handful of them. This amber one, I mean, what's not to love about that? Whittled color. I, you know, and they were just popping out. And this guy is an early David Kleindienst soda from Hannibal Moe. And the cool thing about this is um, it's a ANDHC, which is an earlier glass house. There's a few that have C and I on them for Cunningham and Imes, and a little bit newer version. And you can sort of tell the difference. What I find interesting is on these that have the horizontal embossing is, well, you can't quite see it on that. The last letter and the first letter in the name, the D and the T, are on the back side of the mold. And I found that unusual. I don't recall ever seeing that on any soda bottles before. In the history of Kleindienst sodas, is David died early in, I think, 1874. Um, and his wife, Caroline, ran the business after that for 40 years. I mean, she was in business till almost, I think, right up to 1920. And, you know, for a female widow, of all things, she never remarried, as far as I could ever research, ran the soda works that her husband had started, at least by 1871 and possibly earlier. He was listed in 1866 as a brewer at one of the local breweries, which is not a big stretch from being a soda maker. But in later years, she kept she dropped David from the name, but she kept his first initial D. So they were all the bottles after he passed away were D. Kleindienst. She never took credit for at least in the bottle embossing part. And then this bottle was found on the opposite side from where I dug up all these other bottles on this lot. And here we have an example of what I mentioned in the video, a transitional bottle. It's the only one that has the typical last name letter embossed on the base. That was pretty common. There are at least 8 different variations of Kleindienst soda bottles over the years, and this is the only variant that has an embossed initial on the base. And then there are 2 other versions that have Hannibal misspelled with one N, and on both of the one N versions, well, there's one that has Hannibal spelled correctly, and oddly enough, that's the more rare bottle, but everybody wants the misspelled ones. And then the crown top one, oddly enough, is misspelled, and so far I have not found an example of a correct spelling, so that's odd. And then this one came out with this grouping over here, Joseph Skokonek, Hannibal Mo, which I had never heard of before. This one's a little bit later. It's got the Mo for Missouri directly underneath Hannibal, whereas the earlier ones, it's offset. That was the thing of the time, was to have there we go, have the state offset to the right underneath the town, right into the 70s, I think. I think this one's near as I could figure, about 1885 would be the date for this one. They were listed as a saloon keeper, and in one of the directories, they were actually they had a saloon on one side of the building, and the other side of the building was a drugstore, and they lived upstairs, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then the soda part of their business was very short-lived, only a couple of years, from what I was able to find out. And that was almost on the other side of town from where their saloon and drugstore was located. So anyway, this one's a rare duck. This one, I've heard of one other, and I've seen one other in a mall over in Columbia, Missouri. And recently, one of my dig buddies gave me one that just has JS on the bottom, assuming it stands for Joseph Skokonek. Looks just like this bottle, but no face embossing at all on it, just a JS on the base, which was probably the earliest version of this. Who knows? But pretty much the same time frame. So there you go. Those were the best ones out of the first hole that I dug, and then this transitional Kleindienst bottle was the only one that came out of this one corner that looked promising, but like so many holes do, end up with one good bottle out of it, and that's it. So anyway, I will be back shortly here with another batch of bottles from the same lot. that came out of a stone-lined privy that really spooked me. I call it the spooky hole. So anyway, hang in there. I'll be right back. Well, it's just what the doctor ordered. I was hoping I'd find at least one more early Kleindienst, and there it is. I don't know if there's a backside to it or not, but it's definitely embossed. Kleindienst, Hannibal Mow. Early, early. Yippee skippy, right next to a nice chunk of yellowware, indicating it's 1860s. Yippee yippee. Fresh out of the hole. It looks to be in perfect shape. It's a different mold. It's got a big K on the base for Kleindienst, I'm presuming. You roll it around correctly here. And then on the back side, it has IG Company instead of CI Company for Illinois Glass Company. So this is slightly newer, I think, but it's the same mold style. So it would be like transitional, I'm guessing. I'm thrilled to death. A new one. Here I am back on Broadway, where I dug a hole just to the left of that black line where the white starts. Still might be something down there. There was some pontiled frags that they scraped up just to the left of that. And then earlier today, I was poking in this corner and I discovered what looks like a hole. And as I was knocking down the rubble and the permafrost on the top, there was a lovely early Kleindienst soda underneath, right near the top. So who knows what's at the bottom? Maybe a case of them. Hopefully we'll find out. Okay, back at the Broadway demo site, where I dug a hole where I'm standing, and another one back in that corner there. And they came in and cleared out all of this nicely for me. And what do you know, opened up a stone-lined something. Privy cistern. It's got bones and glass, and I got permission from the contractor to dig it out. So dig it out we shall. See what the hell we got there. Then we have another feature over here just next to where I had dug before. Appears to be maybe a brick lined. You can see the difference in the dirt color. Clearly a circular shape. Might be another cistern with some pottery shards here and there as well. And also, if they do finally come back and clear this section out on this half, they will undoubtedly have to uncover the stone-lined whatever it was that I partially uncovered till it got too mucky to handle. So maybe their muck mover will move the muck and it won't be so mucky to handle. Or not. Well, here I am, just getting past the permafrost, or the tundra section. And first, a few pieces were early frags, nothing pointing to any particular age, till I pulled this bad boy out. An unknown Hannibal soda from the William McCully and Company out of Pittsburgh. WMC and Company. W. Mick and Company. And it's a William McDaniel. William McDaniel. I never heard of it. Nice gloppy lip. Has to be from the 60s. Maybe earliest 70s, but man, this is the crudest one I've dug. That says Hannibal on it from any company. Nice gloppy lip on that thing. This one's going right on the front seat of the truck right now. Well, after about 2.5 hours of digging, we still got this big bad boy above me. I think that it will stay in place. It looks pretty stable. Just brought down this one side. And I'm hoping this one stays up through the night. Anyway, we were down another couple of feet deeper. Everything I dug was something new and different. New and different. Except for these little salve jars. Or not salve jars, dope jars now I call them. There's too many of them. Anyway, I dug up a broken double eagle flask right underneath my shovel there. I'll take it home and cry over it. Anyway, we'll come back in the morning, see what happens. Here we are again at our favorite Broadway demo site, where once again I visit my chamber of horrors, which I intend to prop up with this 4x4, 3x3, whatever it really is, and get to the bottom of this story once and for all. As I was just hitting into a new glass layer when I got spooked. And so, here it is about a week later, 10 days later, I don't know. I think I was here the 7th, now it's the 18th, and I just got below the permafrost. All that you see up above is all frozen in place. I have to use this big old spud bar wherever he is. Oh, there he is. To break it up, but at least I have it to break it up with, or it'd be a lot harder. Well, here we are, about 3 o'clock on a lovely Wednesday afternoon, and after about an hour of digging, this is as far as I've gotten. Not very far. Slow going, but at least we're going. Getting something done. I did dig up a Mist Foley's honey and tar sample bottle, but the top is badly mangled. Hiding down there behind the big bottle. There he is, way over there. Anyway, he shall remain here. And I have yet to put in my brace. So, that tells you how far I haven't gotten. Well, after another hour of digging, I closed it up for the night because that big shelf started to collapse. And in fact, actually did collapse, a part of it. But the more I start looking at that old chunk of old foundation that this corner is attached to, the more I'm thinking that big long stretch is not attached to anything. So if that goes, that is surely to go. So I may just leave it until they come back with the bobcat, or until it falls down, one of the two. And we'll be back in the morning to see what happens. Well, once again, here I am at my favorite death trap. As you can see, that old foundation is losing dirt underneath. I'm assuming it's got to be attached to that brick behind it. I'm hoping. Anyway, I do have a partner showing up in an hour or so. And I showed up today, and right off the bat, we've got somewhere here, there he is, a little bottle sticking out from the edge. By the looks of the top of it, it looks 1860s maybe. So I shall pop him out first off and go from there. It's a good start. And so far, the hole looks stable enough. Frozen enough anyway. We will see. Well, fresh out of the hole, a pontiled pre-Civil War Godfrey's cordial. Unembossed, but that's what they're universally known as by the shape. There really wasn't any other bottle this size and this shape with a pontil back in these days. Looks to be in perfect condition, though the last hit with the brick on the screwdriver as I chiseled it out of the ice sounded like I cracked it. And if I did, I can't see it. But then again, I still have frozen dirt stuck on it too, so who knows. But yeah, I only have a handful of these guys with pontils. They're very cool. I love it every time I dig one. Interestingly enough, as a side note, where that Godfrey's cordial came out of was right next to that brick there. And all along between this little rock wall and the rock liner of the cistern or whatever I'm digging is loaded with bones and bits of glass and even a whole pontiled bottle here and there apparently. So I may just poke around in this for now until my helper arrives, because I still am about this hole. Well, last day of the year and the hole paid off for me. As you can see, it's all pretty much mucky down there. The bucket down there I'm using to step in and out of. But we're done for today. We'll come back tomorrow. Bad boy's still there. Although I think I hit bottom, the last 1.5 feet is all muck and water. So I have to go scratching around with the scratcher until I hit something. Then I have to go Mississippi River noodling barehanded. And that kind of gives you an idea the muck I'm in. Yeah, there's my shoe. But 3 bottles, only one that I have, and I don't mind digging a dozen of, left to right. There's old Kleindienst again, my buddy. Then a Burnett's Cocoa Ain hair product I've never dug, and a Hoofland's German bitters. None are pontiled, which is surprising about the bitters because it looks real close, real close. And in fact was the last bottle to get pulled out. So we are more than happy today. Well, here we are at the end of an epic dig where I'm no longer comfortable with that big chunk of cement hanging over me. It's only attached to that edge, and it's only a couple of feet thick, which makes me very nervous. So at this point in time, even though I suspect there's more in there, I'm giving up the ghost. To continue would be to be greedy. Not worth risking my life over. Well, alrighty, these are the better finds that came out of the spooky hole, as I call it. I call it the spooky hole because that was one of the first holes that really creeped me out. I mean, 3 feet of cement above me, and that one shelf that looked like it could have fallen down and dragged everything with it. You know you're risking things when your plan of defense is to dive into the hole deeper instead of trying to jump out of the hole. That was my plan. If it started to collapse, I was going to dive deeper in the hole and hope somebody would hear my muffled screams. You know what I mean? Uh, so anyway, that's when I realized, oh, along with looking at that 4x4, that would have just splintered like a toothpick if that shelf had come down on top of me. So anyway, risking life and limb. That last day of the spooky hole is Hoofland's German bitters. So crude. I mean, it's a cool bottle. I just love everything about it, except for the fact that it's smooth base. It's not ponnelled. Go figure that one. Nice, crude, funky applied top. Everything screams ponnelled about it. Liver complaint, C.F. Jackson, Philadelphia. I mean, just, geez, where's the ponnell? you know? Kind of the same thing for Burnett's Cocoane here. Look at that mold blow. That's clearly where they did a smear job to patch up, a mold that went sideways on them. But, how can you not love those serif T's and E's and R? I mean, everything is serif, Just love that. I just love that. Anyway, yeah, a nice early one. And then the first of the William McDaniel's soda bottles, I'd never heard of it. Nice crude top on that thing. I mean, just blobby, William McCully Glass Company. Nice early maker. I think this dates to the 60s. William McDaniel's was listed as a candy maker. So soda goes with candy, I get it, but not enough to make a bottle for it, I would think. The only time that it really makes any sense is much later than this bottle, I'm convinced. It's mid-1870s. He's listed for a couple of years as having an ice cream parlor along with his candy shop. So soda goes with ice cream, pretty naturally, like a mixer would go with a saloon, or a soda with a saloon. I would think a soda would make more sense in a saloon than even in an ice cream factory, or an ice cream shop, at least back in those early years. But anyway, one of only two places I've ever dug one of these. The second place, me and a dig buddy dug up, probably 6 or 8 of them. We each got a good handful of them. And, they're listed in Johnny Fletcher's book as being pretty scarce, if not rare, with a hefty price tag on them. But I listed a couple on eBay and, was lucky to get $100 or something for one, So that's kind of how that goes sometimes. But yeah, this was my first and last one. Had it pro cleaned, and there you have it. That's the spooky hole find. That's what I risked my life for. If I had it to do over again, I probably would, knowing the outcome. Not knowing the outcome, I would probably not, It was just a little too scary. Yep.